Okay, so welcome to another episode of Apparently. We're just going to get right into it. So, the last episode was quite intense. It was a New Year's episode. We got so much hate comments on the YouTube account. Like, what do you think about that? It was fucked up.
It was fucked up. I'm not gonna lie. Some of it was quite hurtful. It was a lot of American, I would say, boomer dads getting into our comments. I think the most hurtful thing was literally them saying, "You made your country shit, and now you're making our country shit." Not because it's accurate, but it. I mean, Somalia is not doing great. It's true.
I would rather live in the United Kingdom than Somalia, but I just feel like people don't understand, especially the way hate works. I was born in 1991. What that got to do with me? What that Civil War got to do with me?
It's not our fault, and it's not our parents' fault. Our parents were just, I wouldn't even say middle class. They were just ordinary people who had to take their kids into a place of safety and themselves, more importantly. But yeah.
I wanted to give a massive shout out to Mum for coming to the United Kingdom. At the time, she didn't have six, but at the time, she had five kids, including a newborn baby. I was 2 months old at the time. So, shout out to Mum to come to a country without speaking a lick of English and being able to raise six kids in the United Kingdom, all of them with undergrads and masters, and one of them with a PhD. So, suck on that.
Back on it. And I want to come back to what you just said, actually. Amidst all of this anti-Somalia hatred and the fact that they're picking up on the fact that, hey, this refugee community who's only been in the UK and the US and the West as a whole for 30, 35 years max for the most part, and shock horror, they're still poor. Do you think we need to make more of our successes? Like you mentioned, we have degrees. A lot of us are working in healthcare as nurses, doctors, engineers. I know that's a racist trope, but do we need to do that, or is that pandering?
I think a part of it is pandering, but on the other hand, I feel like instead of showing off the success, I do want Somalis to become more successful in the first place. But similar to what we discussed last week, it's really hard to unite as Somalis in the United Kingdom when we're dealing with a demographic of us who are outside campaigning with Nigel Farage. So I
Did you
think that
see
then
that?
I saw that they had a it's not a protest. What is it? It's not a protest if you have Nigel Farage on your side. So what is it was a demonstration for Somaliland with Nigel Farage. But so how can we better ourselves when I'd say 60% of the United Kingdom is filled with Somalis who are from Somaliland who want reform to be elected and have thrown Palestinians under the bus. I don't think we can do that. So there needs to be successes among us. So that means starting from home. We already have successful people in our family, but I mean making sure our cousins, our uncles, aunties, the people around us are doing okay.
Mhm.
And that we're still remembering who we are. Somalis are really great people. I love us. Like something
I
has
love
I
us. I
yeah.
really do. I think I know the trope is that we're funny, but I think we're more than just comic relief. I think we're kind. I think we're hardworking, extremely hardworking. I think you mentioned mum with all of those kids working night, raising her kids and trying to instill a sense of discipline in us as well. And yeah, in one generation, we've gone less than a generation, right? Because we're technically just
We're
refugees.
first generation.
We're
We
first
came
generation.
here, and not just that. I remember mum waking up at 4 a.m., leaving the house around 5 a.m. to go cleaning. And something really cute about our mum, she used to say that Richard Branson was her boss because she did cleaning at Virgin megastores, like offices, Virgin offices, either way. And like mum would come home after an early morning shift. Before doing a night shift, but mom would come home really after doing the early shift with Sainsbury's snacks, and she'd come home with donuts and Sunny D. And it's like we came here as refugees. The first thing my mom did immediately was get a job. And she worked for years as a cleaner. And what do you do when you're of that age? She was already at an advanced age and she was doing that. You make sure that your children don't flop. And they both our parents invested in all of us. None of us have broken the law. Like we're good people. And I think if we're like that, then obviously the Somalis next door are like that. That's just how it is at the end of the day. We are not an exception.
Yeah.
But I think what riles people up online about Somalis, and I could see that from the nasty comments on YouTube that we got, is Somalis are not begging. We're not begging to have approval from the people who hate us. The hatred
Exactly.
would be much, it would be a lot less severe if we were a kowtowing community, and we're not. We are people who genuinely we have a self-esteem, and I think it's the self-esteem that white nationalists have tried to take away from us, and they realize it's quite difficult even with an enemy within. We're still going we're still going all out to protect ourselves. But this episode is an episode actually as a shout out and a dedication to the white liberals of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Minnesota
Shout
nice,
out to them.
Minnesota nice, that's what they're called for a reason.
They are so nice. We're obviously not from Minnesota, but I've been following a lot of their protests. I've sent you videos of like one guy, for instance, a young punk looking guy, who's been out in the snow protesting for days, to support the local Somali community. He looked like a white goth, alternative guy. But all Minnesotans have shown up and shown up for Somalis in Minnesota. Most importantly and tragically, Renee Good, a mother of three, a poet, a Christian, a white woman who I think has been treated in a way that just reminds you that it's not enough to be white anymore in this fight. That doesn't give you protection anymore.
It doesn't, but also seeing like people like Matt Walsh, aka Ben Shapiro's personal butt plug, on Twitter, aka X, basically disparaging Renee Good for being in a relationship with a woman. And it's just like you look at that and you think, you know, when people are talking about the genocide in Gaza and you have pink washers saying, oh, don't you know they'd throw you off a roof? I look at that and I think, how do you feel as a white gay person when you end up joining in with that chorus to disparage Muslims and dehumanize us and justify the killing of our children? When, okay, so what's the first of all, no Palestinian has ever thrown someone off a roof for being gay, not in Gaza or the West Bank. The only people suspended off roofs in Gaza are people who've been killed by Israeli bombs. Like the young girl, I think her name was Sidra. Did you see? It was during the Super Bowl. She was like suspended off
Oh,
a
yeah,
building,
don't
a
remember.
bottom half chopped off. No, but it's just like that is who gets thrown off roofs, not gay people. It's not always
Yeah,
about your personal identity. But what I find really fascinating about that is he was disparaging Renee Good, more or less calling her like a deviant and that kind of
yeah,
thing. And I just look at that and I just wanted to just finalize that and just say like, if you are one of those like white gays, okay, so you won't be thrown off a roof. Is it great that you're just going to be called a pedophile like instead? Like, is that something that you like? What the heck? Like, I look at that and I just think the dehumanization towards LGBTQ people is global, no matter where you are, unless you're in Thailand. But it's just like, other than that, it's like, what is your poison? Being receiving prison time for being gay or being called a pedophile? Like, what the
yeah,
heck? Like, you have to look at that in that
yeah.
way, and being dehumanized posthumously.
Oh yeah, yeah, and not even like something I've noticed with these right-wing commentators, including the vice president JD Vance and the president, they've dehumanized Renee Good, and they're refusing to acknowledge her wife. Have you noticed that they keep on and Donald Trump referred to her wife as her friend, which is very old school homophobia.
It's lesbophobia, though, in particular,
Oh yeah, yeah.
because hatred against lesbians is a bit different towards hatred towards gay people because it's like an enhanced version of misogyny.
Mm.
What do you hate more than, if you hate women, who do you hate more than a woman? A woman who sleeps with other women. Like,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
you hate two women at the
yeah.
end of the day. So it is quite a unique kind of hatred that I don't think you hear enough about. I don't think I know like or care like it's not like don't care. It's just that it's not something that we've been like taught about.
Yeah.
So but that has like the killing of Renee Good has made me realize maybe lesbians need to be showing out for her a little bit more because
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm seeing Somali showing out for her in jilbabs. So it's like, come on.
Yeah. And I think to your point, the homophobia that we're familiar with the most is the kind of sissification of gay men and seeing them as women. And that is from the right wing, right? The memes and tropes about gays for Palestine always involve a very effeminate man who doesn't really have confidence to acknowledge that these scary Arab Muslims are going to throw him over the roof. But with lesbians, with women, you're right, it's a different kind of hostility. They just refuse to acknowledge that they are real, that they're in a real relationship, that their wives are just as important as a heterosexual marriage. But yeah, you're right. I'm so proud of the Somalis in Minnesota for showing out and showing up
Well,
for
it's
Renee.
because of a rejection, not to go all like rad femme, but it's a
Oh yeah,
rejection of men. Whereas I think the reason why lesbians are more demonized is because with gay men, it's seen as a rejection of women, whereas with gay women, it's seen as a rejection of men. And I think that is like the biggest FU to the patriarchy ever.
yeah, yeah. Oh, and there's so many layers to this, by the way, because have you heard of this whole notion of transmaxing in the right wing space, where
Oh.
right wingers are more open in some quarters to trans women because I don't, again, not to go rad femme because I'm not a rad femme, but they see them as the perfect woman because they were born male, and it's their way of crafting the perfect woman.
It's crazy out here. Yeah. Oh, I know what maxing is. I find the word maxing and maxing, mogging, and mewing are my favorite words. So, like, mewing is when you're trying to get that definition in your chin through, I don't know, eating lots of chewing gum and like
Yeah,
all that stuff and doing exercises with your jaw to make it more chiseled and defined. Maxing is when you're just going to the max, I guess.
yeah.
And mogging is the one. Mogging in general is just actually, to be fair, mogging is just serving cunt.
Yeah, it's looking better than someone. Who was that guy that did an interview with Michael? Oh, I forgot his name,
We,
but
you know, if we don't know the names, but he's like a far right influencer who thinks that JD Vance is disgusting. Google him, but he thinks
yeah,
JD Vance is disgusting for being a fat piece of shit with a fat, ugly face. And he's right wing, this influencer who hates JD Vance. So he should like JD Vance. But he actually likes the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, because a lot of the far right, like incel types, love Gavin Newsom, not for his policies, but just because he is the perfect, like, white male archetype. Have you got his name?
yeah. His name is Braden Peters. Such an American name, right? Braden. He's 20 years old, and his name online is clavicular. And do you know what the clavicular is? It's that bone across your chest. And in these looks maxing spaces, having a broad clavicular is like the height of male
He
beauty.
says that, by the way, this guy then, what's his name again?
Braden Peters.
Braden Peters, so clavicular, he hates Sydney Sweeney. He thinks Sydney Sweeney is very I will play the clip, don't worry, I'll pop that in here, but it is so funny how much he hates Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney is not rated at all. By the way, shout out to Sydney Sweeney for being very openly Zionist now. We won't get into it too much, but she's now posting on Instagram pictures like, well, she's on the Stand With Us Instagram page. Scooter Braun is her boyfriend, the guy who stole Taylor Swift's back catalog. Scooter Braun is a hardcore Zionist who describes pro-Palestine activists as Nazis.
Mm,
But yes, Sydney Sweeney, what a scumbag. I know this episode isn't about her, but I just wanted to say she really is, that is the nail in the coffin for me. I never rated her, I've never paid to watch anything that she's in, but
yeah.
now it's just solidified
Okay.
very openly what she is. But the point of this episode is, did we ever, are we guilty of being too harsh on white liberals, like the liberal wine moms, the Rachel Maddow fans, what they've done in Minnesota, especially in defense of minority communities, and particularly this ICE stuff is because of the Somali community,
Yeah.
because of
100%.
the what's his name, Nick Shirley, doing his video near at the Leering Center at the and trying to find little kids at the center. Um, but that is ultimately why there's been this huge, intense like increase in ICE presence in the state. But yeah, like I just wanted to sort of say, I think I may have generalized white liberals a bit too much. I think that
Yeah.
they really did come out for us.
I think the hostility we had towards white liberals was we were angry about this genteel protest that they always bring forward, right? The No Kings protest. They don't really have a radical worldview. They don't want to turn the system upside down. They just want to ensure decency. And that's what they've done in Minnesota, right? They want to bring back decency. They don't want to see Somalis getting cameras shoved in their faces as they exit a daycare center with their kids. They don't want ICE targeting people because they have a foreign accent. They think it's uncouth. And in the past, we've had issues with that because to us, that's not enough, right? We need to recognize that white supremacy is an entire system and it needs to be dismantled from the bottom up and the top down. Whereas white liberals have always just been like, don't be uncouth, don't shove people, don't harass people, don't use vulgar language, Mr. President. You know, let's bring back decency, and that's
Do
not
you
been
know,
enough for us in the past.
that's not been enough for in the past, us in the past. But do you know what I find really interesting?
Mm,
I think after Elon took over Twitter, there was a period when white supremacy became quotation marks cool again.
mm,
Quotation marks. Emphasis,
mm,
obviously, we are black Somali Muslim women, so it's definitely not cool for us. So emphasis on
mm,
the quotation marks. And some of the viral tweets, some of them are quite funny, that kind of thing. You look at it and you're just like, oh, like, it's being normalized a little bit more, and the
mm.
whole woke go broke thing became quite mainstreamed. But I think that that has had its time now. I think it came back in, and then everyone realized why it was exiled in the first place with all the ICE stuff. Unfortunately, it didn't. Like, I think the genocide in Gaza also plays a part in it as well, because a lot of people, including ourselves, believe that liberalism did let people down when it came to the genocide in Gaza. There's definitely, more radical leftists and also MAGA people who are against the genocide in Gaza. So I
Mm,
think
mm,
that
mm.
has played a part in confusing our brains a little bit and making us not know who's right and who's wrong. It's a bit
Yeah.
weird like that. But then you put everything together and you realize obviously the only people who can liberate Palestinians have been Palestinians, that kind of
Oh
thing.
wait.
I think it's always, yeah, because even when you look at people on the right who are pro Palestine, I think online there's been way too much, like, I think Mohammed Al Kurd describes it. He wasn't describing it in this context, but Palestinians having to audition their humanity. I think there's
Mm,
been a lot of auditioning of humanity of Palestinians towards right wingers. It's like, please, there are Christians in Palestine.
mm.
We have the same, like oppressor, that kind of thing. And guess what? Alex Jones, he almost said, he once said that it was a genocide, then he goes back to demonizing Muslims again. Like, it will never ever, even on something as awful as a genocide, because who was it again that said, like, in order to not be oppressed, like, your oppressor, in order to reason with your oppressor has to have a conscience.
Oh yeah, yeah. Malcolm X.
Malcolm X, I think it was another guy. It was another black radical guy.
Oh no. It
He
might
said,
be Stokely Carmichael.
I think so. And he's like, but America doesn't have a conscience.
Yeah, yeah.
While she's getting the quote, let me sing. If you're ready,
Yes,
call
it's
me boy.
a little music intercession. In order for nonviolence to work, your opponent must have a conscience. The United States has none.
Who said
That
that?
was Stokely Carmichael, aka Kwame Ture.
Okay, so I knew him as Kwame Ture. I didn't. I forgot about the other name. So yeah, so you're trying to reason, like we've been trying to reason with the same people. So for example, we're trying to reason with MAGA right and trying to audition our humanity and our shared, I don't know, Islamo-Christian instead of Judeo-Christian values with them. But the people that we're reasoning with are the same people that were dousing their bullets in pig's fat to shoot Iraqis. So it's like, what the fuck? At the end of the day, it wasn't the white libs who are doing that. It's those people.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at everything in a more compartmentalized way now. I think
Yeah.
also deactivating X has helped my mental health immensely.
How has that been? Because you have been, I think, particularly affected over the past couple of years between you and I, by the genocide and by the amorality of left, right, and centrists around the
The
genocide.
the internet has completely fucked up my brain. So there's been many different subsections of the internet that has broken my brain over the genocide in Gaza. Um, a lot of it obviously is the ardent, fanatical, supporters of Israel.
Hmm.
That's the number one.
Hmm.
Number two has been the demonization of Muslims to a point
Hmm.
where you end up just feeling like you have the voice of Bill Maher in your head every day. It just really
Yeah,
breaks you.
yeah,
It's trying to break your spirit.
yeah.
Number three, the identity politics, the liberal queer identity politics. I look at it and I'm like, no, I don't think we need to talk about I don't know, queering the genocide. Like, I don't need to talk about like Judith Butler's take on um I don't know, that kind of nonsense
Yeah.
when it comes to a genocide that has mostly claimed the lives of babies. I don't need you to tell me, you know that there are trans people in Gaza. Guess what? Those bombs are just going after Palestinians. It's not a genocide of LGBT people, it's a genocide of Palestinians from when they're in the womb to when they're outside of the womb to when they're grown adults, when they are carrying a baby in their womb, when you are a father and you're collecting your
Body part.
twins birth no no your twins birth certificates, and
Hmm.
then you go to see the twins and you find out your wife and the twins are dead. I don't give a shit about whether two African American activists didn't get, the red carpet treatment when they were in the West Bank, even though they were probably treated exactly the same way as everyone else. I don't care about anything else. I just care about life and death. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that it kind of made me take a step back. What Gaza has reinforced is we need to take we need to take a step back from our identity and reconnect with our humanity.
Oh, that's a quote. That's your Stokely Carmichael quote out.
Yeah, like I don't care about anything else. The greatest American journalist, in my opinion, of all time is Glenn Greenwald, and I think the fact that he is a gay man, he's got sons, and like he's just like a really great,
A lot of dogs too.
yeah, a lot of dogs. But I just love him so much. I think the way that he has reported on this and given his take, um, has
Yeah.
made me also look at him, and I'm just like, do you know what? My favorite journalist in the world is a gay Jewish man.
And he doesn't center those identities in his analysis of any issue around the world. He centers what is causing harm, who is affected by that harm, and how can we remove that harm. That's what a journalist should do.
Absolutely. I just look at that and I think the perverted ideology of liberal identity politics that has taken a hold over the internet, that is a full description, that's the
Mm,
sentence,
yeah.
has kind of rotted my brain a little bit. But something that I wanted to talk about is, yeah, just the fact that I've learned to take people for who they are instead of their identities, because that is ultimately how we're going to get through life. Like, I don't believe in, not all, I believe the whole not all skin folk are kinfolk. I don't care about
Yeah.
anything else. Like, like it's just that to
Yeah,
me. What do you think about that?
I agree. And I think this whole Somali debacle has really proven that to me because we have, like you said, a newfound admiration for the white liberal mom. I'm seeing, like you mentioned before, people who literally look as close to me as you do, um, on a protest demonstration, whatever, with Nigel Farage, um, talking at the funniest thing in that protest, by the way, was Nigel Farage saying, "Look at you, you're so well behaved. If a white right wing politician said that I was acting well behaved, I would chimp out. I would chimp out.
Completely lose it, but they were loving it. They were
They
loving
were
it.
loving it. So
They
so
they
I can't
spread
see
their
these
butt
people.
they spread their butt cheeks for him that day.
Did. So, like you said, skin folk aren't kinfolk. Just because we share an identity doesn't mean that we share a shared sense of humanity. I might have more in common with a white liberal Christian woman, a white Christian liberal lesbian woman like Renee Good, than a Muslim Somali person. You know?
Exactly. So that's the most important thing to me is a white working class man who's Christian and is against the genocide in Gaza is way more important to me. And this is going to take us to our next topic, which we'll briefly discuss, to an African American woman of the name Jasmine Crockett. Like,
Oh,
I call her Jasmine Crockett shit. Like, she's just terrible. She's currently a congresswoman who's trying to run for Senate in Texas. And basically, there's been this big controversy. I don't know if you've seen it.
I'll be honest, I haven't followed it in too close there, but
So
please
she's
tell me.
running for Senate in Texas. These two podcasters, Matt Rogers, a white gay man, and Bowen Yang, Asian man who's in Wicked and SNL. Do you know that guy?
Yeah, he's not funny, but yeah,
He's not funny at all. That is a 100% a DI hire.
yeah,
But
100%.
but they were talking about Jasmine Crockett's run for to be senator in Texas, and they were talking about it in such like a racially agnostic way. They weren't saying anything. There was no dog whistle or any of that nonsense. They were basically saying a good point. They were like, if Beto O'Rourke or Beto O'Rourke couldn't do it, Jasmine Crockett is not going to do it. And you know how like that race was. I think it was against, wasn't against Ted Cruz. So it was like,
Yeah, yeah.
but what came after that was an avalanche of accusations towards Bowen Yang and Matt Rogers, the two podcasters, for misogynoir, which is
Oh,
basically misogyny, but specifically towards black women, the French word noir, I think.
yeah,
Um, and if you look at it, they ended up having to kowtow and apologize. They did their Instagram, you know, their I'm listening and learning and I promise I'll do better. I'm sorry for not bending the knee nonsense. But yeah, that to me is a horrific like weaponization of identity because Jasmine Crockett is not some, you know, African American woman who's a mother and trying to, you know, beat the system and go after, you know, Ted Cruz. She is a vapid politician who's never ever she doesn't have any principles apart from when she always votes to send weapons to Israel. She is an ardent Zionist.
mm-mm.
And you need to see the videos that people are making about Bowen Yang and Matt Rogers. They're basically they've driven them out for racism.
Yeah. And it's so unfortunate because what I think is misogynoir is when you want to critique a black politician who's also a woman, but you can't say what you truly believe, which is, I think, yeah, Jasmine Crockett is not particularly bright. Have you heard her speak?
She's really not bright. Her
But if I was a white man saying that, I would get blown up just like these two comedians were. That's racist.
But it's one of those things where it's like I criticize white politicians all the time for saying dumb shit. So and
And being and all of those southern white politicians who are described as hicks, yodels,
like yeah, Lindsey Graham, those kind of idiot
right,
types who are, you know, also fanatical supporters of Israel, also not America first, that kind of thing.
and
To
not
me,
bright, just like she isn't.
just like she isn't, but it's the racism of low expectations,
That's it.
which is a form of racism. But yeah, I was so disappointed when Bowen Yang and Matt Rogers gave their apology because I thought you need what we're going back to pre 20 to 2020 nonsense, and
Yeah,
there's there's benefits to it as a minority, but then it also just means that the next wave of hate is going to be even worse. And
yeah,
the thing is, the UK is not going to catch up to the back to woke thing. We're now straight into anti woke town right now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And America is edging closer to two extremes, which is out and out white supremacy from the government and a trickling down back to 2020 wokeism amongst the liberals. I think they're just putting their head in the sand and trying to ignore what the government are actually enforcing. Like the Department for, I think, Homeland Security posted a blatant white supremacist meme on their ex Twitter profile, and it was basically saying this beautiful view. It was on a beach with a 70s Cadillac on the beach. It's a famous piece of art, but it's basically to depict perfection and beauty, right? And it's like the USA, once we deport 100 million, I believe. Anyway, however many people it was a huge number. And it's just impossible for that to be the amount of illegal immigrants in the US. And what that number turned out to be was the entire non-white population of the United States. So this is what the government are literally saying. And we have our liberal, they're not our liberals, but US liberals splitting hairs about can a white liberal comedian make a joke about, well, not even a joke, make an accurate description of Jasmine Crockett's abilities. Hello, your government wants to deport both of you.
It's ridiculous. That's yeah, I agree with you on that one. Anyways, I am now heading into what do you last before we leave, what do you think of the 2026 renaissance where people are saying 2026 is the reincarnation of 2016?
Oh, 2016 personally was a bad year for both of us, I believe, particularly me, in terms of poverty.
You were really fat then.
I was poor as well. Remember, I was borrowing £5 from mum to go out. It was
Oh,
what?
wait. No, not just that. Guys, she was borrowing £10 off our mum to go shisha.
And that £10 would literally get me a pipe. That was a beautiful time. Do you remember? Now it's like
Yeah,
£30.
we used to be a real country.
It used
10,
to be a real country.
£10
But
shisha.
I don't think we're gonna get into a renaissance. I do if I have a dream for 2026 and I see it kind of slowly happening. I don't think it's gonna happen very quickly, but I'm seeing an end to US hegemony. Canada is getting close to China. The tariffs are going to be hitting us. So Nigel Farage can't chummy up to Donald Trump when he's inflicting tariffs on us. So I think we're going to see a shift away from US domination. And I hope, inshallah, China dominates the future.
Inshallah, inshallah, inshallah. I think that's all we've got time for today. China Hanalato, Somalia Hanalato, and Marj Bar America. Is that what you said? Marj Bar?
March, but what's that?
I think it's Persian for death term. Anyways,
Oh,
thank you very much for that. Anyways, enjoy. Hi, this is a bonus content actually for our best followers. Ladan was just mentioning what's going on with the geopolitics of some, like, what are the geopolitical implications of Somaliland being recognized by Israel?
yeah, we forgot to mention this, but basically, I think Somalia has reorganized global politics. There has been a breaking up of a really strong coalition between the UAE and Saudi. Um, I think it started in Yemen, where the UAE was supporting a breakaway country called, very imaginatively, South Yemen. And they overstepped in supporting Israel's recognition of Somaliland and also supporting the breaking up of Yemen once more into South Yemen and North Yemen. And now they have been kicked out of Yemen by Saudi effectively. The Somali government, for all their faults, have also kicked them out. But Puntland and Somaliland have obviously kept them on because they get kickbacks from that. But either way, I think the UAE has been severely damaged reputationally. Saudi has now entered a basic Muslim NATO with Pakistan, Turkey, and maybe even more countries will join this new coalition. And the UAE is out in the cold in that coalition as well. I think they're really regretting their actions. So shout out to Somalia because without our problems, I don't think this new situation would have occurred.